What's up, gente? What's up, Raza? So, the question today is: should Chicanos side with Iran against the United States in 2026? And my answer to that is yes. Right now, we as Raza, as Chicanos, indigenous people, right? Those of us, whether you're Chicano or not, if you're a poor person on this planet, if you are a marginalized person on this planet, you should definitely side against the United States and with Iran. Let me back up here real quick and give you a little bit of history. So, part of the reason why the United States invaded Iran is because, not as Donald Trump says in 1979, they took hostages, they took the embassy, they kicked out Americans, and did all that. No, no, no. It goes way back to even the 1950s when the president of the United States had people overthrow their government. And you can argue that it goes back even further than that because the British and the French have always wanted, especially about 100 plus years ago when petrol became a big deal. When you start getting gasoline or oil out of the ground to produce things like gasoline and other stuff like that, all of a sudden that's black gold. That is wealth. That is riches based on one resource alone. So you can argue that it goes back far as to the British and the French. Here we're talking about colonizers, right? And these settler colonizers who come in and take over the land and then pretend they own it and they pretend they've been there all along, and they start basically exploiting the land and against the people who are already there. Just understand, don't get caught up with the foolishness that this started in 1979 because it did not. And going back to the question, why should Chicanos side with Iran on this? It's not because of religion. It's not because they treat their people a certain way that we wanted to be treated, would like to be treated. The truth is, a lot of restricted governments, a lot of authoritarian governments, a lot of governments who operate the way they operate. It's a style of operating, and we wouldn't necessarily like it. So it's not even that. It's not that we agree with them 100%, because definitely we shouldn't agree with 100% with anybody. That would, nobody's perfect, nothing is perfect. But it's because America is an empire, and um, America has a long history now, since 250 years that it was established, of becoming this empire that rules over everybody. So, recently there was there's some reports that came out, and they now disclose that the United States is running out of weapons. So while the United States has been used to ruling over everybody using weapons, all of a sudden it finds itself, because of a stupid president, an imbecile, an incompetent man who is full of himself. He used up all these weapons thinking he was going to just go in there and conquer, just like they had for 250 years. The way they treated the indigenous people with the genocide, the way they treated African, and the way they treated everybody, all colonized people around the earth for 250 years. And then they go in now to Iran, who doesn't have all the weapons the U.S. does, doesn't have all the missiles, but they're smart. They're not dumb, right? These people who self-govern themselves for years, for thousands of years, they haven't survived that long. The Chinese haven't been around that long just because, whatever reason. They're very wise people, smart people, and that is true of all societies, civilizations. Unfortunately, the United States, when you look at the timeline again, 250 years is nothing compared to 3,000, 4,000 years if you want to go back to Egyptians and others, and the Chinese, like I said. But in this case, the United States is that empire. The United States is that colonizer. The United States is basically the bully who went in there thinking, I'm going to punch him in the mouth, kill the leader of the country in the middle of negotiations. That's another thing that people forget, is that the United States went in there and basically took out the leader in the middle of negotiations. Who does that, right? And this was the second time they killed the negotiators or killed somebody during negotiations. That's why the Iranians right now won't even sit down with the United States. They don't trust them, and I don't blame them. Like, it's taking some people a long time to figure this out, but they knew it. They can't trust this guy, so they're right now actually sitting down and trying to negotiate something with the country. I think it's Oman, which shares part of the waterway there with them, not with the United States, but with another Middle Eastern country or country there in the Middle East as we know it. And I say this because I want you all to know and understand that, in a time when the United States has been doing what they've been doing, along with the other European colonizers, in a time when we have a crazy man in the White House, I mean, we've had some crazy ones, but this one doesn't even know what he's doing. That's what's, in a way, we're kind of lucky. We're lucky that he's that dumb and incompetent, right? Because he doesn't know what he's doing, and because he doesn't know what he's doing, he's run out of missiles. He's run out of weapons. And they're covering up the truth. They haven't told us how many people actually died, how many soldiers actually died. American, I'm talking about American. They started out this war not just killing their leaders and his family, but they killed 165 little girls. And this fool gets on there, starts talking about terror, worse terror than World War II. Terrorizing, well, who was terrorizing during World War II? A guy named Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, straight up fascists and Nazis. He wishes he could be like them. We're lucky he's not smart like them because they were wickedly wise. That's just, let's put it simply. They weren't good, but they weren't dumb either. Donald Trump is dumb, and we are lucky that we have a dumb man in the White House. Unfortunately, he's full of himself, and he's got some wicked people that are behind him, advising him. So, Chicanos, if you have family in the military, Raza, if you have family, all my Boricuas and Puerto Rican, Cubans, all of you, all the indigenous people around the world, you got family members in the military. I'm hoping that your kids, your family members or friends, loved ones, that you can convince them that they do not need to reenlist. Number two, they do not need to follow illegal orders. They have a right to refuse to carry out a massacre, to carry out any kind of war crime. And I'm hoping that that'll start happening, and we'll start seeing a little bit more of that, because until within the ranks themselves rise up, until the ranks themselves raise their weapons against these oppressors and these generals who are giving them these unlawful orders to kill innocent people, until they lay down the arms, if anything, and say, we're not fighting for you all, uh, we probably won't see a change. And when this American empire falls, that would be a good thing, and it will be a good thing for the American people, and much more for all colonized people around the earth, because especially right now, currently, we have a madman in the White House. That's what we're living with. That's what we're having to put up with. And until America, this empire crumbles, until we bring it down, we are not going to see any real change. Now we got some elections coming up. I'll be having something else more to say about that, especially here in California, which could be its own country. And I'll be talking more about what we could do on that level, because yes, we can bring about change in so many ways, including firearms and weapons. But that's not the only way, and that's the problem with the madman in the White House right now. He thinks that is the only way. Might makes right. He could, stone people to death or do whatever he has to do and laugh about it and brag about it. And he thinks he did a good thing. So with that said, let's just say, put it out there right now, why Rasa should side with Iran during this time. I'm going to say right now, I believe Iran has already won the war. I think Trump wants out. I think he realizes that he screwed up and it's backfiring in his face. And then finally, I'll tell you, this is one more reason why I think he will cancel elections in November, or will try to stay in power. Somehow him and Elon Musk, they've been messing with the votes and messing with the internet and messing with the mail. I hate to say it, Rasa, but he's looking for any reason to stay in power. And unfortunately, we got to wake up out there. And if you think voting works, then get out there and do your part. Think we need to vote? Get out there and do your part. But if you don't, believe in voting, that's fine. What are you doing though? Let me ask you. If you don't believe in voting, you don't believe in or you don't believe in organizing, because you can organize, right? What are you doing? I hope everybody's doing something, because we have to be maybe not necessarily in the same formation, right? But at least on the same page where we know what we got to do. And right now, we got to remove this madman. We got to remove this. We got to bring down this crazy government that is in front of us and doing what it's doing. But it won't happen if we don't unite, at least on the overall goal. And that overall goal is to defeat fascism.